nice turnout this morning for the third annual RISE Symposium. We're going to get started by welcoming our Chancellor, Dr. Linda Katehi, to give some opening remarks. Linda?
Good morning to all of you, and welcome to the new quarter, the last quarter of this academic year. This is really very exciting to see the campus with all of the students and everything. It was too quiet at times, you know. When the quarters end, we are all very happy that we are going to be able to do some work, but then the next day or the day after, it feels also so lonely. So we're looking forward to having the students back. I'm so pleased to be here to really open this RISE Symposium. And there is a history that goes with it, and I would like to, obviously I have spoken about it, but I would like to repeat it because it really says so much about the investments for the work of our faculty and students, which are so important on any campus, but specifically here at UC Davis. So about almost 40 years ago, I would have to say, it was very early when our budgets were cut. And the ERA program was established by President Obama. And the second year of this program or so, we received an unexpected amount from the overhead return of the ERA program, which somehow we had not taken into consideration while we were doing budgeting. So we had about 18 million that came the last minute of the budget process, and we decided instead of just pushing the money into the pool, and the money would obviously disappear considering we had a big hole from the state budget. We decided to put these funds aside and try to make an investment, because investments are always important, but investments during difficult times are even more important because they take you further out. They have a much bigger impact. So we put this money aside, and when the new Vice Chancellor for Research came, here is Lewin, the funds were given to his office primarily to create a program, and a program that would help the faculty come together and create new, and with their students, and create new ideas on which then we can move and then do more work on, and hopefully break through ideas in the areas which are important to society and of course to us as a campus. And so that's what Harris did. He got extensive feedback from many faculty. I remember we had a lot of discussions about the committees we put in place, the people who were involved. It was a very dynamic process, and eventually this process led into the creation of these two programs, the RISE program first, and then the Interdisciplinary Frontiers for Humanities and Arts later, and then the two programs were staggered because it was a lot of work, and there was not enough people to really do both of them in parallel. And that was a good idea because there was a lot of lessons from the RISE program which eventually were implemented during the development of the Frontiers program. And I understand there were many proposals. I don't even remember how many, 96 or something proposals or so. There's 117 proposals that were submitted at the time for like less than 10 that the office had in mind. And because there were so many excellent proposals, eventually the office decided to fund 13. More than 90 faculty or so were engaged in these 13 proposals, and a very large number of graduate and undergraduate students. And that is really wonderful, considering that, of course, the investment forward is not just for our faculty to create new ideas. As we all know, who have graduate students, a lot of ideas come from the graduate students, all right? And we give them some guidance and so forth, but a lot of the great ideas come from our groups that are primarily staffed by graduate students and postdocs. So, and that's what happened. And I remember since the beginning of the RISE Symposium, when I learned about the very interesting, really, and very different topics and ideas that faculty and students came together to work on. It was very exciting to see the new directions that we were ready to take. And also I know, and Hedis will speak about that this has been a very important investment and a very successful one, which really shows us how much we can gain in terms of opening up new areas of inquiry and new areas of scholarship, just by making small, very modest investments at a critical point, which then will allow people from all across the various disciplines to come together and do new things and try new things without really the fear of not necessarily producing. So that is the one thing that we are facing today from the funds of the federal and state governments, that most of them are very specific in the outcomes they would like to see. There is tremendous pressure to produce at the end of the cycle. That pressure does not work very well for universities because we are not our graduate students are not employees. They are students who are educated and trained during this program, and a lot of times, they don't produce. I mean, producing as part of research, of course, is an important component if you are a PhD student, but it's not the primary component, as we all know. A lot of times we start new ideas that are very aggressive, and it is possible that nothing is going to come out of it. And as a matter of fact, even learning that some things don't work is a good outcome. But go and tell that to the federal agencies. So in any case, having these programs in place is extremely important. I say that as a researcher myself, and I wish that during my time as a faculty member, there were similar programs like that. So the goal is not just to see how this program works, but find a way to sustain it. So every so often, we'll have a new announcement of a similar program to really put money back into the research engine and help our faculty and students create intellectual paths and directions. So with that, I would like to thank everyone for being here today. I want to thank you for your great work, you and your students. Everybody who is here, I understand the presentations this time will be made by students. I'm looking forward to really seeing what the work has been and how we are moving forward. Thank you so much, Hedis, and all of your staff for putting this together and for working so hard to make it a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Katehi, for your opening remarks. Before we begin the program, I want to acknowledge another one of our senior partners, my senior partner in the program here is Provost Ralph Hexter, who's also joined us. And I also want to welcome our distinguished guest, Dr. William Goldstein, Bill Goldstein, who's the director of the Lawrence Livermore National Labs, who will be with us for most of the morning this morning. Bill, thanks for coming over. And also, I know that John Nezovich from Lawrence Livermore Labs has also come over, and this speaks very well to our growing partnership with the Livermore National Lab. So, we get started. As the Chancellor mentioned, the idea for this program came really about 4 years ago when we began to think about how we were going to use this $18 million that was set aside from the indirect costs from the ERA program that was launched by the Obama administration. Now, I had about 10 years of experience in leading interdisciplinary research activities at the University of Illinois before I came here. And the one thing that I really learned is that the best ideas come from the faculty, not from the administration. And I have scientific ideas. This program was designed as a bottom-up program. There was absolutely no prescription on what area was to be funded. We didn't single out health or environment or energy or sustainability or any area like that. What we did was set the parameters for the program. The parameters for the program were very, very important. First and foremost, this would be a peer-reviewed program, externally peer-reviewed program, where we would bring in experts from the outside across all disciplines to review the proposals that we would receive. Second, the projects themselves needed to be interdisciplinary. They needed to involve faculty from more than one department, from more than one college. And they needed to be focused on a thematic area. thematic area, a problem, a mission-oriented problem that the group could solve together, that no single individual could solve by themselves. And that was one of the driving ideas. Third, we wanted to couple these themes to the additional resources that the Office of Research could bring to these activities. And those activities would be development, how to do some early fundraising around these activities. That was very critical. And also how to bring in additional partners to the effort. Those partners could be corporate partners or foundations. And so we could bring together all the resources to make these themes successful. And so there are two programs. One is the RISE program, that's research investments in science and engineering, as the Chancellor had mentioned, and a second program which has 7 similarly organized themes called Interdisciplinary Frontiers in Humanities and Arts. And together these programs, which were called the Interdisciplinary Frontiers program, have been rebranded as our UC Davis's Grand Challenges initiatives. Explain why. So why Grand Challenges? Well, UC Davis, I think all of you understand and can agree that our faculty, our environment here is very much geared and organized toward collaborative research. Faculty here have a very long history of doing collaborative interdisciplinary research, and they have been very, very successful at it. In fact, Davis, through its land grant mission, is really known for its ability not just to do outstanding basic research, but to also translate those discoveries into practical applications. And so Grand Challenge initiatives are, by their definition, large-scale problems, but they are solvable problems in a defined period of time. And if you look at the scope of our Grand Challenge problems in the RISE and IFHA programs, these are scalable problems that involve usually between 5 and 10 faculty each, all organized within a time frame of 3 to 5 years to make significant progress toward solving a major problem that's facing our society. Now, these projects, as I mentioned, are mission-focused. They address a major scientific gap or need. They're interdisciplinary. They're high risk and high impact, as the Chancellor had pointed out. High risk things that, you know, it's just very difficult to get funding for from the federal government. We'll see toward the end how that has paid off for one of our major, one of our investments, one of our RISE teams. Locally applicable and globally relevant, and of course solvable in a reasonable period of time. So, there are 13 RISE themes. These 13 RISE themes we have invested we will have invested more than $10 million, nearly $11 million, over a 3-year period. After all the projects have come in, we can actually group these projects in a sensible way, and it's no surprise how these projects can be organized, given the strength of our campus. They're organized into agriculture, health, energy, data science, and security, and very often the intersections between all of those individual areas. We have a deeply collaborative and interdisciplinary approach in these themes. If you look at the membership, as I said, it must involve faculty from multiple departments and multiple colleges. Overall now we have 81 faculty who have been involved in the themes, involved from 36 different departments, every school and college, and impressively, and something that I think that the Chancellor really wanted to see happen, was that we have involved and increased the numbers of graduate students. We have 126 graduate students who have been engaged in the RISE themes in one way or another. And this provides very unique training opportunities for those students. So where are we now? We have already seen the themes come into being. They have gelled, they're dynamic, they're evolving. We have faculty coming in and out because as the new problems emerge from the themes, you have to bring in new people to help you solve the problems. And this is very important over time because that greatly affects the competitiveness of the individual themes. They have to be flexible in allowing people to come in and out. We'll see some examples of external partnerships that have developed. We have seen that some of the themes exploded the first year out of the gate, whereas others seem to have a longer incubation period. It takes a while for the groups to get going, to find their sort of to get their legs, to get their proposals organized, and to move forward. So we have some moving very fast, but some moving very slow, but they're all moving. That's very important. And as we'll see toward the end of the proposal, the return on investment that we've made so far is really beginning to pay off, even though we're only 2.5 years into the funding cycle. So this was last year when we were only about a year into the program. We have expended about close to $3.7 million, and teams were coming together at the second RISE Symposium. We had good interactions, development was involved. We began to really see what themes were of interest to both companies and foundations. But the very encouraging sign that things were really working was the number of grants that went out from the themes. And these grants were not single investigator grants. There's not a single investigator grant that's counted here among the totals that I'm going to present now and for the current year. So within really the first year, there were $108 million in new proposals generated from the RISE faculty themes. And as an early sentinel, that first year produced about $2.5 million in awards. And each year, each of the RISE themes is asked to produce an annual report that describes all of their progress, and those are available to anybody who wants to read them. They are very, very interesting documents, and we do read them. I won't go through all of this, but I'll just say that some of the themes have already made very impactful discoveries. Satya Dandakar's theme has been able to identify sites in the gut that are related to inflammation caused by infection by the human immunodeficiency virus, for example. And we have new instruments that have been developed by Nelson Max. And we have others. I believe we're going to have a very nice poster demonstration from Tom Turntine's theme. They have already produced a fantastic web-based application to monitor energy usage in homes. And these are just some of the early examples. If you just do a simple matter of counting, you'd say, well, one easy metric to follow is how many publications. These 13 themes in just over really a year of their activity, year and a half, have produced 170 publications, many in very high impact journals. We have 4 records of invention and 1 spin-out company. We have started partnership. Actually, the initial discussions with IBM started around a Bryce Fox theme. This has led to an agreement actually with IBM in a different area, in the food safety area, but it actually began at what's called the Rapid Needs theme led by Bryce. And other types of collateral arrangements, unanticipated, where Paul Dodd has played an extremely important role, is the development of our partnership with the Exploratorium, which has given us a fantastic outlet to showcase the results of our research here at UC Davis in the greater Bay Area. And finally, our themes have greatly contributed to the internationalization, the globalization of our research. And Simon Cherry, for example, through his theme, has made applications to the Wellcome Trust Foundation using some of the findings that he has generated. And one very important result was the use of the RISE grant to Alan Bennett, to the theme that Alan Bennett is involved in, which was then used as a match to leverage 3-4 times that amount from the Chilean government for the Chilean Life Sciences Center. And that is an important part of what's counted as our campus contribution to that project. And this is sort of the way it looks. I hate to put it in terms just of money, but some people look at these things to see if our investments are really paying off. And as you can see, I talked about that $2.7 million the first year. Well, if you look at this year, we have expended 7 million of the approximately 11 million or so we will spend, 10.8 million we'll spend on RISE. And as of this year, as of today really, we have generated, or the themes have generated $70 million in new funding for interdisciplinary research. That's new funding for interdisciplinary research, not single investigator work. Some of the, one of the more recent ones was the $10 million Conti Center, NIH Conti Center grant to Cam Carter and Kim McAllister for their work in behavioral and mental disorders. Really a major achievement. But that's just one piece of a much larger piece that's now returning to us almost sevenfold difference. Of course, you can do the math and see for the funds expended, we're at almost tenfold, but I believe in a year from now, we're easily going to be at over a tenfold return investment because we still have $141 million in pending proposals, 41 proposals with more than $40 million in requests. And this is really an extraordinary achievement of this group, and I can't tell you how proud, and I thank you because if you hadn't done this, I might not have my job, so I really appreciate that. But it's absolutely amazing to see what you have all done with these really precious resources that the Chancellor has set aside, the Provost has set aside for investment back into our research programs. So here's what we have coming up today. As I mentioned, we have well over 100 students involved in the RISE themes, and today, this is really about the students. This is about their achievements, their experiences in these interdisciplinary groups, how they're learning, how they're benefiting, how they're contributing. And really, any of us who have been involved in interdisciplinary research knows that, it ain't us, it's them. It's the students and the postdocs who thrive in this kind of environment, who learn from each other on a daily basis to really make this kind of an initiative go. We're going to have, as I mentioned, Dr. Bill Goldstein address us. Bill is an eminent physicist. He's the director of one of our most important national laboratories over in Lawrence Livermore, employs a large number of our students. I believe something like 40% of your employees are with PhD level, is that right, Bill? Are UC Davis graduates. There's a long history that goes back to Ed Teller and the Department of Applied Science here. And we're so pleased, Bill, that you decided to come over and give us a talk today. We're going to have a panel discussion on interdisciplinary research. I'll be on the panel, Bill will be on the panel, other faculty will be on the panel. It should be a very interesting and lively discussion. And as my staff tells me, there's no such thing as a free lunch. We will have a wrap-up session at 1:50, and hopefully we'll all be on our way at 2 o'clock. So again, thank you, and without any further delay, I'll introduce my colleague, Paul Dodd, who's going to get the program launched going for today. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. So, thank you, Chancellor Katehi, Provost Hexter, and Harris, and Bill. Welcome again to UC Davis. So, we are trying a slightly different way of presenting out the progress this year, as opposed to the previous 2 years where we've had faculty leads present. This time we've gone with graduate students, and there's a number of postdoctoral scholars from each of the themes. We have 4 scientific sessions. What we're asking each of the theme leaders to briefly, as in 30 seconds to a minute, which is going to be challenging, briefly describe their theme and then introduce their graduate student who's going to spend 10 or 12 minutes or so describing their research. So we have 4 scientific sessions divided roughly along the lines of kind of sustainability science, data science, health, and agriculture and food over the course of between now and 2 p.m. And then we also have Bill Goldstein's plenary talk, and as Harris mentioned, we've also got a panel discussion session on interdisciplinary research. So in this first session we have 2 talks. Our 2 faculty leads are Dan Cox, who's a professor in physics, who leads the answer Rye's theme. He's going to come up first and introduce their theme, and then that'll be followed by Tom Fernstein, who is the director of the Plug-in Electric Hybrid Vehicles Centre. So Dan, if you'd like to come up first.